Hey everyone, hope this finds you well. It is just getting dark. I've just got back from the Boffy, brought a beautiful harvest back this evening. A whole array of summer greens, mixed leaf, chard, spinach, mixed leaf salad, and I planted out some garlic cloves. Those of you that follow me on Instagram, you'll know the journey. But yeah, I planted out some garlic cloves for my last garlic harvest. I harvested around about a year's worth of garlic and then learned to preserve it in oil that's infused with rosemary, chili, pickling spice. And you blanch the garlic, let it cool completely, and then place it into this oil. Then over the weeks and months, the oil gets infused with all those flavours and the garlic gets infused with all those flavours. You can eat the garlic and you can use the oil. It's a beautiful way of preserving garlic. But something my dear dad taught me was to when you dry the garlic, over a few weeks, and traditionally the garlic was planted at winter solstice and then harvested at summer solstice, midsummer. I planted ours last year on Samhain, All Hallowed Eve, and then I harvested it on summer solstice, midsummer. Really simple magic right there, simple folk magic right there. And then traditionally it was dried in the eaves of the doorway of the home, on the threshold. And you think about all those kind of myths and legends. If you jump over to www.shanegad.com and you jump on the blog, you'll find the whole recipe of preserving and some of the myths and legends, and you dry it on the threshold of the front door. Just beautiful, simple folk magic. You think about all those myths and legends of repelling unwanted energies. It's very powerful stuff. Simple but very powerful. So yeah, today I split some of the garlic that I held back, just about, I think it was about 4 bulbs, small bulbs, the smallest bulbs from the harvest, and I split them today and then replanted the cloves, which is going to give me my next harvest of garlic. How amazing is that? It's all about that cycle. And today just kind of potted around there this afternoon after doing some consultations very gently, and potted around and done some harvesting and some planting, and sat there very quietly just watching the kind of watching the world go by within that beautiful community. And it was very quiet there today, so it was perfect to sit quietly, just gather my thoughts, have a brew. And I felt, as I was cycling back, once I'd got all of that harvest prepared and cleaned and processed and shared with some of my neighbours, that I would do an energy update. And I've just looked out the window, and it is almost pitch black, and it's like 20 past 9 here in the evening in the UK, and those evenings are drawing in. I've got a sense, my little one said this to me the other day when we was at the Buffy, there's a sense of autumn is beginning to stir and wake. And we're only in July, but I say only. There is a sense of it stirring. I can feel it stirring and beginning to wake. So we are very slowly but steadily marching towards autumn. And I think that when you start harvesting your potatoes and your cabbage, you've got a real sense of autumn is with us, and it won't be long before we are harvesting both of those, and together they make a beautiful dish. But it's the change from the salad crop into something that's a little bit more wholesome and a little bit more warming and nurturing, in a heavier way. Nature is incredible. But here we are, the world is changing in every moment. And I think what we're required to do is respond accordingly. So the energy update, I've got a real sense of, in all of this change that it seems to be changing in every moment, we are required to, in a way, kind of respond accordingly and try to respond accordingly in the here and now. That's what it's asking of us. To be responsive and open, because trying to create big plans or create a strategic way of moving forwards, I think I feel is the last thing we should be doing right now. And I think actually at some level it's impossible. I think, in a way, what it's asking of us is that we turn towards what is emerging. It is, it's interesting, isn't it, how we are all conditioned to plan the future and direct and force things, and everything that's going on in the world right now is trying to get us to, in a way, stand still, continue to stand still, to slow down, continue to slow down, and kind of meet what is arising. Yet we have been conditioned to kind of plan and move forwards and strive. I think what is really fundamentally going on here is that we're moving away from doing. We're being forced to move away from doing. And don't get me wrong, doing is an essential part of life. Look at me with the Boffy, that tiny little small homestead of a space. That takes action, that takes doing. But what I'm talking about is kind of beyond that level of action. What it's doing is knocking us on our backsides, and saying to us, we've got to learn to be again. We've been moving, as a good friend of mine says, we've been moving through time. What this is trying to do is move us back in time. We're not all altogether comfortable of letting things unfold and move. We're at the beginning, and I believe it's only the beginning. I think that could be questionable. Some people would definitely question that. But I think we're only at the beginning of what is a deep transformation. And I think, it's going to be confusing. It will be confusing. It is confusing. It can be confusing. And it will get confusing, as literally things are disintegrating. They are literally falling apart. And I've said this many times with some of the energy updates, that if something is falling apart, it's because it's no longer working. And I think it takes heart, strength, courage, integrity, self-honesty, and awareness and self-awareness to kind of be okay with that. And I think it's important to be okay with the fact that you won't always be okay with that. It's about trying to nurture and nourish yourself. I was sharing some information yesterday, and there was quite a debate, and I just, I kind of, part of me just thought, afterwards I felt kind of exhausted. I felt really, really kind of tired. I felt emotional, and I think that it's important that we honour that, and we recognise that is how we're feeling, and not to just skip over the top of it, to actually meet it and nurture and nourish ourselves. And today I had some wonderful work that I was doing, working with incredible people as always. And then I knew what was required, what was going to really be good for me was to get down to the bothy, put on the kettle. I don't always, when I arrive, put the kettle on. I might do a bit and then put the kettle on. But today I got there and the first thing I done was sit down and put the kettle on. And I remember amazing guy that I've learnt so much from. He says one of the first things you do when you work in a garden is you plant a chair, and you then sit on that chair and you just listen, and you listen to that garden. I know in the early part of the season that's exactly what I used to do, and as the season moves on, you kind of turn up and you just move into what needs to be done. But it's been okay with the fact that you won't always feel okay. Things are dissolving, they are falling apart. As I say, things only fall apart when they no longer work. They're disintegrating, they are breaking down. The systems around us are breaking down. How we relate to ourselves is in change. How we relate to each other is in change. How we relate to the world is literally turning to sand. What was known is now unknown, and what's ahead of us is hugely unknown. And it's turning into sand. There is, huge undercurrents that are trying to control that momentum. Authoritarian, government controls that are trying to, in a way, and you can understand it. You can't have things coming off the rails at some level. We don't want things to move into chaos. So there's this squeezing that's going on, and I think that is, there's a sense of them trying to steer the outcome, and there's something different that's happening. Only today, we here in the UK have moved through lockdown. There's many measures in place, but we've moved through lockdown. There's still lots of guidelines in place, but I cycle past a bus again tea time this evening that is absolutely empty. Things are not sparking back into life in the way that I guess they thought it was going to. And that's an interesting concept because it means what is happening, and that's why I say to you, there's a feeling of everything's just kind of dissolving. As the innate says, good luck trying to control a complex system that is turning inside out by its own measure and by its own momentum. And I don't think you can drive that. I think that it's a process that we participate in, yet it is also about being. You cannot plan, yet you can sow seeds, and the soil is fertile because it's almost, we're in such a time. If we're going to make change, now is the time to make change because everything is pulling towards that change. There's no greater time to create change. Now is the time. It's emerging. You've got this feeling of it coming from almost this sense of things are being pulled from the future towards the now. Past meets future, future meets past. It's an odd feeling. At the same time, there's a deeper sense of urgency, yet being still and being present So it's the ability to do both all at the same time, which is why it could be confusing for some people. It's so subtle. Those things are just bleeding into each other. And I've got a kind of feeling about that. There is a feeling of the veil becoming thinner, everything just kind of bleeding into one. But at the same time, we've got this real feeling of a breakaway happening, and I spoke about that in the last energy update. So if you want to kind of get a feeling for that last energy update, I'm talking about kind of breakaway that is happening within the world, within society. It gives you a feeling that we're moving into a time where there is little to hold on to, yet there is all at the same time. There's something very solid that's emerging, yet there's very little to hold on to. And this feeling of a deep interconnected process of life itself is kind of moving and bringing things into being. It's like there's a loud clarion call for complete, deep, layered change. Now, I'm going to share with you a message that was shared with me that I come across. It was shared around the 15th of June, so a month ago. And this is what the lady says. The lady is named Magenta, a Magenta Pixie. Some of you may know of her. What a beautiful, incredible name, Magenta Pixie. Message to the UK's awake. Truth seekers and light workers, as non-essential shops open up across the UK today, June the 15th. I thought I would share some psychic insight that I have received. There will be breakaway communities beginning to naturally form. So for those in the know, do not despair at the regimented presentation of society at this time. There's something else beginning now that holds a much higher vibration. If you're intuitive, just follow your guidance. For those who do not have such a fine-tuned intuition, then look for small, independent businesses, family-owned shops, cafes, eco-friendly and sustainable businesses, farm shops, farmers markets, and health shops. Give these places your custom, for this is where you will meet others who think like you. This is how we begin to create the new Earth societies. Day one of our new reality of the two world split. So there's that breakaway feeling, that two world split. Began on the spring equinox, March the 21st. Now, as we approach the summer solstice on June the 20th, last month, and we begin to see live and create the tangible seeds for a new earth and the breakaway communities for heart-centered living. I go on to say, my heart tells me that this is absolutely spot on. My own experience of a presence appearing and telling me it's time to grow a garden in May 2019, and all of what has unfolded since is showing me that this breakaway is happening in large and small ways. It's as if there is a subtle yet very obvious two-world split. I will always remember being asked on a live stream, and I shared this with you guys on winter solstice 2019, what does the coming year bring? I remember taking a large deep breath and saying, hold on tight, From the shell of the old world will a new world be born, a cosmic pause like no other. I still so tangibly remember that, and I've had many people write to me and quote that back to me. I think moving forwards, these times can be tough for many. We need to keep in mind what is broken or no longer works falls apart, and that can be painful. Here in the UK, we're experiencing job losses like we've never seen or experienced. 600,000 between March and May alone. And that's going to be harsh moving forwards. Yet I truly believe we can reset, rebuild, and remodel how we live. There is no way we are going back to normal. Normal was not working, it was barely holding on. I think we've got the opportunity here to shape what can be a gentler, wiser, kinder world. Yet it's going to take us to really roll up our sleeves and get stuck in. That's that whole thing about doing but yet being present. Okay, it is going to require us to roll up our sleeves and get stuck in. It's going to be gritty. Yet I also believe it can be beautiful. It's going to take honesty, truth, and above all, self-honesty. I think at the heart of it, it has to be about community and localised communities. I've been feeling that for a good couple of years now, and really feel the importance, and not really feel the urgency to go beyond my locality. And that's an odd feeling, because not in a bad way, but years previous to that, I've ventured all up and down this island of ours, cycled the length and breadth of it, and spent a lot of time away at times. But it does feel, the heart of it is community, and I think that it is about localized, cooperative, transparent community that gives us the tools and the skills and the knowledge to not be so reliant on the state, that we foster and nurture a sense of self-reliance and a sense of sovereignty. In these last few weeks, I've been welcomed into the homesteading community here and here at home and overseas, sharing of information, knowledge, and skills, which is such a gift. And I encourage everyone that hears that call to gently build upon it. Start small and keep it simple. Slowing down and deep listening is still what is required. Sitting around together around a fire, sharing open, honest truths, supporting each other through this transition. There'll be people that won't even recognise what they're seeing, and there are those of us that knew and felt it coming. What we're talking about here is reweaving the threads of community. It's a simple yet powerful act in our times to sit around a fire outside underneath the stars and to just listen to each other, to share, to pass the talking stick, to put a cast iron kettle on the fire, make nurturing tea, and to listen and to talk to each other, to hear each other, to support each other. That's that whole sense of building, fostering, nourishing and nurturing localised community that can be cooperative, transparent, self-managed, with honesty, and at the core of it is the want and desire to shape the world into a better place, for us and for our children and our children's children. It is all really, really simple. I think, what we start to really see is what we really, 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 really value again. And we're going back to basics. This is all about going back to grassroots and going back to basics. I'm seeing that, high streets and shopping malls, I'm hearing stories of them just being empty. Maybe there'll be a re-emergence of the localized shops and communities again, where we have here in the UK again, the butcher, the baker, and the grocer and the candlestick maker. Yet again, that comes back into being. Would that be a bad thing? Yes, there's jobs that are going to need to transition, and I think that going forwards, maybe we need to start re-looking at apprenticeships, teaching skills again, and life skills again, and working with our hands so that we can be self-sufficient, that we can start making things again, we can start producing things again, and we can start growing things again, that we're not importing it all from overseas and from thousands of miles, and we're buying it cheap, which has been the go-to thing to do. Maybe it's about reclaiming, reusing, recycling, and then creating, and working with our hands again. Lots to think about. There's a lot of change coming. So how are you feeling? And what are you learning from this time? As always, it's a heartfelt pleasure. Look forward to the next energy updates. I think, we can see that, my videos are changing. What and how I want to put them out is most definitely changing. I don't want to just create content. I want the content to kind of be created, if that makes sense to you. And when that nudge and that feeling moves, is to move with it. But in the meantime, keep shining. Lots of love, and nurture community. Nurture community. Who's within your locality? What community do you have? Community is everything. Who lives next to you? Go and speak to your neighbours. Go and gift them something. Go and ask after them. Community is everything. Until next time, keep shining. Lots of love, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.